Okay guys, excited to bring you back on the water today. We're probably going to be in and out of rain and showers. So we had some rain earlier this morning, but right now it's kind of clear. So overcast but clear. So thought I'd pull out the camera and give you, a little bit about the lake and how we've been doing so far. So this lake, I went to this lake with a friend a little over a year ago. I haven't been back since, and this is, total different time of year as well. So trying to figure out these fish. There's a little grass up here at this end, you can kind of see that. So I figured I would flip and frog that just a little bit, see what happens. I don't think there's a lot of grass overall in the lake, but there's a little bit right here. I was using the gavacho frog and had one strike it, miss it, slowed down. He came back at it again. We got him most of the way to the boat and lost him. I don't know quite how that happened, but didn't seem like he was really engulfing it. Then we swapped over. I thought maybe a different color, so we swapped over to a brighter color because it's overcast and the water's just a little murky. We've had a bunch of rain lately, so it seems like it's stained up the water. And then missed another one. Got him halfway to the boat and came off, and then we just got one a little over 2.5 pounds. And just had this stuff down his throat, absolutely stuffed. So I'm not sure. I'm going to keep fishing this. We've flipped a little bit, haven't caught anything flipping yet, but we're going to keep at it and hopefully put a pattern together. I'm guessing that there's going to be some more fish offshore, but just figured I'd hit these weeds while we were right here, and I can't really resist. So, all right, guys, let's get after it. Picking up a fish on the worm. Okay, decent little fish, not a giant, but a decent one. We've actually, the rain just stopped. Put that one back. The rain just stopped, but it rained pretty hard, so I had to put the camera up for a little bit. We lost a giant on a frog. We got it halfway to the boat. It was in thick weeds, vegetation, and he came off halfway to the boat. It was a giant. And then we've caught a whole bunch of fish out here. We did catch another one in the weeds, and then we moved offshore here. And you can see this is, up here there's, a major point in the lake, and then as it comes out, it drops off, and then there's kind of an island hump, and then there's another hump out here, and so it's sort of a a major point with sort of saddles in it, I guess, and rock humps, and the humps are rock, and everything else is kind of just mud bottom. And so we worked a crankbait a little bit. We caught a bluegill, but not what we're after. And then and now we've just been working a worm. This one is the remember, June bug, but we were working a black one, and we caught quite a few on a black one, mostly smaller fish. We caught one decent one, and then just that last one was okay. And we've caught smallmouth as well, a couple smallmouth. So we're just going to keep working this area on this rock hump and go from there. All right, guys, let's keep after it. Okay, guys, we picked up a decent one on the frog, and we'll let this one go. See if we can pick up another one. We had to come back. It thunderstormed and rained super hard, so we came back and just parked the boat up on the beach, or the boat dock, and the ramp, and waited for the thunder and lightning to be over. And we have been fishing in the rain a little bit here, and just picked up that one. I didn't even have the camera out, so I quickly pulled the camera out and threw that one fish in the live well for about 2 minutes or less, just to get the camera up and show you guys. And how awesome is that on a frog? Sometimes, in this rainy weather, the frog will work again. So I figured, well, we knew there were a couple fish in these weeds, So I pulled the frog back out just for a little bit, and we'll head offshore here in just a minute, but I'm just gonna make a couple more casts with the frog since we caught that real good one. That was 3 point, I'm trying to think what it was 3 point, I weighed it, 3 point like 7.5 or something like that, 7.6, something like that. So close to 4 pounds, real nice fish. Not as big as the one we lost. We lost one on the other side of those weeds earlier, but that helps. That helps a lot. All right, we'll get after it. All right, it's picking up rain again. We did just catch another small one on the frog. He was pinned perfectly. Look at those double hooks. I mean, just perfectly pinned. But this rain means we are gonna put the camera away, let that one go, and see if we can catch a few more. But we're putting the camera away. All right, guys. Hey there, guys. Andrew with A-Team Adventures doing a recap for you. So we were on the water yesterday. It was a stormy, rainy, kind of a nasty day out there. And it seemed like every time we'd get the camera out and the rain would stop and it looked like it was going to clear, it would just, you know, start pouring a few minutes later. One time, I mean, we had it out and I was showing you a fish that we caught, and I mean, it started raining pretty much as soon as I pulled that camera out, so we had to put it right back. But that was kind of the whole day, and it actually got so bad at one point that we actually had to, you know, pull the boat up to the boat ramp. There was lightning everywhere, and just, you know, not really looking to get struck by lightning. What was it that a friend said? He said, I've lived a long and sinful life. I don't need to tempt God. But anyway, so whether you believe in God or not, I'm not looking to tempt anybody. And anyway, it was a fun day, but it was just kind of that way all day. You'd pull the camera out, you'd figure something out, and then next thing you know, it was time to you know, put it up and, you know, head back to the ramp for a little bit while the lightning passed, or, you know, run out. So we were a little limited in our options, but it was still a fun day. We still learned some stuff. I would like to go back to the lake and explore more of the lake because we stayed a little closer to the ramp, but still a lot of fun. It seemed like in general the fish were nipping at the baits. They were not totally, you know, engulfing them most of the time. Every once in a while you'd get one that would just, I mean, have it stuffed right down his throat, but quite often it seemed like they were kind of nipping on them, and we lost quite a few fish on the frog. We messed around with the frog a little bit. We went to the gavacho frog, which I really like. And if it was the size of the frog, that should have done it. You know, that should have been the one that they absolutely had down their throat. But that didn't seem to be the problem. I lost one on that, and I might have even lost a couple. But anyway, so I swapped to the bullywah frog, which is a very big frog. You know, chartreuse. It was a little bit stained, so I went to something a lot more visible, and that helped, but I still lost some fish. So I went to a black frog and didn't even get a bite on it. So I don't think the black frog was the deal. So I went back to the bullywah because that was the one we were doing the best with, and we did catch some fish. I lost a giant on it, and then later we caught a real nice one on it. I pulled the camera out just to show you that fish, but it wasn't you know, it wasn't quite as big as the one we lost, but it was really nice to get, and that was on the, you know, the bullywah with the chartreuse belly. Boy, that chartreuse one, it just seems to be at times, and we've talked about this, but at times, like, that is the frog. I mean, that chartreuse, I think, is what's doing it. It also rides a little bit lower in the water, I've noticed as well, which maybe that helps them get it a little better. I don't know. But I think it's got more to do with the chartreuse. Then we went out, we flipped a little bit, but not much, and had a couple bites, but didn't get anything in the boat. Then we went offshore to, you know, like sort of like a major main lake point that extends out even further and has some rock humps on it, saddles and rock humps. And then when you go to a hole, you know, you kept going farther, it seemed like there were parts of it that got real high, and we got into some grass, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But we caught quite a few fish on the worm, specifically that black worm. I did try a couple other colors, but it did not seem to be getting it done like the black one did. And again, this is just the standard Zoom trickworm black with the Scott Canterbury quarter ounce shaky head, my favorite shaky head for light shaky heading. And we were dragging it, we were hopping it. We got into a whole lot of rock, and that worked great. And then we actually got into a little bit of weeds, and I was sort of hopping it in that weeds, and you'd feel them come right out. You'd hop it, and it would start to fall, and thump, and you'd reel down and set the hook. And we caught a lot of fish doing it. I'm trying to think. I don't think we caught one over 3. I don't think we caught a lot of 2s, but I don't think we caught one over 3. I am liking this. The more I use it more and more. This is that NRX 7.1. It's a extra fast, medium heavy. So that would be the NRX 853 jig worm rod, and I am really liking that one. We've talked about this, like I've been using a medium a lot before, GLX medium, and I like it. It loads up super well, but this one, boy, you really have some, it feels like a little extra sensitivity. Really like that rod. Up with the Aldebaran, again, we've talked about this, in 12-pound fluorocarbon. That just kept working all day long. Then we got into a little bit shallower cover, and I thought I'd cover a little more water, so went to the square bill, and we caught a bunch of fish, a lot of small ones. We did catch a couple halfway decent ones, but I don't think we caught one over 3 again. And we were burning that. That's again the River to Sea Biggie with the rattle in it. I think you can hear that. It's got like a real deep knocker in it. I like that. And we're fishing that. It was again very fast. It's an 8-to-1 reel. This is that Mentanium B. The more I use it, the more I like it. I really like that reel. It fits in the hand well, but it feels pretty solid too. The way that they've designed it, and it's smooth as butter. Casts great on 17-pound fluorocarbon, because when I'm fishing a square bill, I'm usually banging it around stuff and ripping it out of stuff. So I want a pretty good sized line. I could probably have one rigged up with like a 15-pound line as well, kind of identical, but just 15-pound line, and it would dive just a little deeper, and that would come in handy. There's a few times when it would be really nice to just be able to get down an extra foot or so. That would make a big difference. But I'm, it's been a great setup. And then it just, again, budget-friendly rod. And I know there's better rods out there, but they're just so budget-friendly, and they work really well. It's a 7.4 medium heavy. It's the KVD, Team KVD, Quantum E-glass rod. Yep, 1 second, guys. My son Stanley must have fell off his little scooter or something, and skinned his knee, so he was. A world was coming to an end for about 30 seconds, and then life is good again. And but anyway, so budget-friendly rod, use it all the time, and I use it. I mean, really, I use it. It loads up so well. I use it for everything from a square bill, a lipless crank. It's not my favorite lipless crank because it's a little long and heavy. So if you're yo-yoing it, it's a little bit of a nuisance. You really start to feel the weight because it is a heavier rod, because it is that E-glass. But for everything else, if it's just a straight retrieve or burning stop, burn stop, pop the rod, it works perfectly. And I use it from square bill all the way up to, what do I use it to? I think a 6XD is pretty much where I stop with this one. And the other baits tend to be a little heavy and they overpower the rod. But I've used it from everything from the square bill up to the 6XD, and really like it. Used it on the tactical deep diving crankbait, kind of that winter speed cranking, and caught the biggest bass, my personal best, this last spring. And it handled it beautifully. Just loads up so well. So good rod, budget friendly. And then lastly, like we said, we got into a little bit of a flipping bite. There was some probably, I don't know, anywhere from about 3 feet of water to 5 feet of water. There were some weeds up on that hump, It seemed like the best weeds were in that deeper water. So if you could find the weeds on that, 5, 6 feet of water line, maybe even 4, so the deeper edges, that's what seemed like the spot for a flipping bite. I just have this on, I think it's a 3/8 ounce, tungsten weight, a couple bobber stops, the TK 130 or something anyway, but it's the Trocar flipping hook. I think that's the 4/0. I really like that size for most of what I do, 4/0. It's solid, but not so big that it, overpowers the bait. 65-pound braid. It was murkier water, so I knew I could get away with the braid. And I really prefer fishing braid. It gives you a whole lot more sensitivity and an immediate connection with those fish. So really like that, and you can pull them out much better. And then this was on that Conquest 904C MBR. It's a 7.76 heavy, and really enjoying that rod. This is the first Conquest I've had, and I am really enjoying it. We were flipping a few different things. We started off with pretty standard rage bug, and actually I don't know if I even have one. No, I don't. But I was using, this has got red flake in it. I was just using plain old green pumpkin because it was a cloudy day. I just made it, very simple, very plain. But that's the rage bug. Was flipping that in the beginning. Got some bites, a lot of short strikes. Again, just they were kind of nipping at it. You'd pull it back in, and one claw would be missing or something. Then I tried, and just kept mixing up the color. And I mixed up the color. It didn't seem like anything was like, okay, that's it, we've got it. They're biting it good after that. But I used the orange, the orange craw, and that seemed to work just about as well as anything. Went to a green pumpkin again, just plain old green pumpkin. Got some bites, caught some fish on it, and then I went to something black and blue. I just figured if the black worm was working so well, I don't typically go black on my flipping baits, but just figured if the black worm was working so well, and it was, I could try this. And I got some bites on it and caught some fish, but still they were still pulling claws off quite a bit. So it didn't feel like one thing was like, oh, that's the deal. I did even try a little bit of the Spike It, the Glow, the Chartreuse. Sometimes, some people love this stuff, some people hate it. It stains. Don't get it on your hands, on your clothing, on your boat carpet. It stains like you wouldn't believe, and it's in there for quite some time. It's rugged. It is rugged. And then also, don't ever use it on a Lastec plastic, like the Z-Man, a Lastec. It'll eat that right up. So don't use it on that. That's a teeny little extra bonus tip. But on the standard plastic, it works pretty well. But I'd even tried that. It didn't seem to make a real big difference. Sometimes it does. Every once in a while, and maybe only 10 to 20% of the time does it make a huge difference, but it does every once in a while. It absolutely just lets them hone in on it and triggers them. And I don't know if it's just that little bit, like you see a bluegill tail and it's got that little spot on the tail that's sort of chartreusey. I don't know if that's what's targeting it when they're super keyed into bluegill, but every once in a while that Spike It, chartreuse absolutely works for me, but not all the time. So when I tried it yesterday, it didn't seem to make any difference, so I didn't bother, putting it on over and over again. But I always have it in the boat just because every once in a while it makes that big of a difference. All right, well, that's a recap for the day. If the only thing I wasn't upset with how the day went at all, other than the fact that if it wasn't raining and lightning, I would have gone and explored more of the lake. We stayed in a pretty localized spot. If I could have, I would have hit many different places. Things were working. We knew that. We knew where there were fish, and we could have probably stayed there, for another whole day and kept catching fish. But we knew it was working. But I just would have gone to other places and tried to build a pattern, in other parts of the lake. But other than that, my hands were a little bit tied on that, so I couldn't do it. But other than that, liked how the day went. It was a fun day. We caught a lot of fish, and probably a decent day. I mean, we wound up probably with a 3-pound average. Not anything I'm gonna write home about, but you're not upset about it for how the day went and what we had to work around. All right, guys, stay learning. Can't wait to take you on the boat next time. We're not in the boat now because it is soaking wet. I've got a fan in there. I've got all the rod lockers open, but it is totally soaking wet. All right, take you on the boat soon. Take care, guys.